Put the cloud. Here we go.
Okay, thanks.
All right, good. Start. Good evening. Welcome and holiday greetings. This is the Calumet Revisited Forum for December. I am Michael Bowes of the Association for the Wolf Lake Initiative. I am co-host with Dr. Valerie Pendleton of Calumet College. Calumet Revisited is funded by the Indiana Humanities and the National Endowment for the Humanities. Before we hear from tonight's speaker, David McGowan of Ravenwood Media, are there any announcements? Not hearing any. I would like to make several myself. Ollie will hold its annual membership meeting the evening of Thursday, January 13th at Calumet College. The Calumet Nature Exchange, facilitated by Ollie, meets via Zoom at 7 p.m. Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. The presentation this evening is being recorded. The recording will be available within a week on Ollie's website. And would everyone remain on mute? After the presentation, we will have a question and answer session. Now I will turn this over to Dave McGowan, an award-winning filmmaker.
Thank you, Michael. Hi, I'm Dave McGowan. I'm a filmmaker, Ravenswood Media. We're based in Chicago. My company makes films primarily about the environment, about conservation, for agencies and not-for-profits, things like white nose syndrome, and First Street, the national forests and the national parks, Fish and Wildlife Service. And a couple, 3 years ago, I approached Michael Bowes about making a short film to introduce the Association of Wolf Lake initiatives to the world, just because I really believe in what they're doing. And we made a 12-minute film called Wolf Lake Oasis of Beauty and Serenity. You can find it on YouTube. Can we go to the
Yeah, do you want to go to PowerPoint or the film?
the PowerPoint?
The PowerPoint first?
Yeah.
Okay, for sure.
Hi, everyone. So we got the idea after making the film about the short film for Michael's organization. We started talking about doing a longer documentary, not just about Wolf Lake, but about the Calumet, its unique nature as an industrial area.
Yeah.
One that also had a
In Canada. Canada, Canadian, Canada. Up there. French.
if you could put your mute on, I think that'd make it easier. So the Wolf Lake, when I was working with Michael on the short film for Wolf Lake, it just became very apparent that this is a really rich area, rich in history, and in contrast, everybody kind of knows that from the amount of industry that's here, and also the amount of green space and really cool green spaces. So we came up with this idea to make a documentary, 60-minute documentary about Wolf Lake and the Calumet region, seen through the lens of the Anthropocene. And the working title right now is Wolf Lake Abides. Wolf Lake's been beaten up and hammered and dug and dredged, and yet it's still here today. So the Anthropocene epoch is a new epoch, a proposed new epoch that describes the Earth for the first time ever the natural system has been surpassed by humans. So now humans are the major driver of the ecological systems on Earth. I'll get into that a little bit more deeply later, but the reason why we wanted to do the documentary about the history of the Calumet through the Anthropocene epoch is that the Calumet region is actually a really good microcosm of what's happening globally. So I'm a filmmaker and I know how to make films, but I'm not a scholar. And we wanted to make sure that we had really good scholarship when we make this documentary. We want to make sure that our ideas are on track with academically. And so we put together a pretty impressive roster of scientists and historians. Broxton Bird is an earth scientist. And the reason why we were interested in him was he's going to do core samples through the region. And he feels pretty confident that a lot of the trigger points that the Anthropocene is defined by, like increased carbon dioxide, increased organic chemicals, will be showing up in these core samples. And he has a lab in Indianapolis where they take these 15-foot long samples, they cut them open, and they can isolate down to like the molecules of what's in the soil, what's been happening. So we know from historical record that Native Americans were here and that slowly over time they had left. Trains came in. Trains were being run by, sometimes by wood, sometimes by coal. After the trains and the mills started to show up, the refineries, all of that should show up in the core samples. And it's just a really great way to verify what's going on in the historical record with some evidence-based science. Theodore Karamanski is up at Loyola. He's somebody I've been involved with a long time, mostly on Great Lakes issues, but he also has an extensive Native American background in history. Liam Hennigan is a restoration ecologist, which is really important for the Calumet region, because after 150 years of heavy industry, was starting to back again and expand upon those areas, those vestigial areas that weren't developed, that are like among steel mills. Clark and Pine and Gary is a really good example. How do you incorporate that? Once you start to restore it, how is that the restoration of a particular area, but how is that going to fit in with the kaleidoscope of other areas that are throughout the area so that we can build a connected natural area throughout the Calumet? J.R. McNeil is an environmental historian out of Georgetown. He wrote the book, The Great Acceleration, which is a book about the Anthropocene, how it started, what dates people debate about when it began. There's a number of them. And his book's called The Great Acceleration because he kind of leans towards like the 1960s being that moment when a number of vectors, population, carbon emissions, a couple other conditions, really spike. And the Great Acceleration is like an exponential increase in all these factors that really kind of signified, for him at least, the opening of the Anthropocene. Bill Scarpino, environmental historian, we'll see him in a short video that we did. Sabina Sheikh from University of Chicago is an environmental economist, which is a really important aspect to what we're trying to convey, that history doesn't take place in a silo. There's a number of different disciplines that are involved. So, we're going to use core samples, which represent science, and there's the historical records. Well, and economy is a big part of what humans do, and it also plays a big role in the anthropocene. And Phil Willing, who is just a stellar biologist, worked at the Shedd Aquarium Field Museum, has done a lot of work in Wolf Lake. Really interesting discoveries when he looked at the historic record, because they've got records on Wolf Lake. The Field Museum was only a few miles away, so they've got records of Wolf Lake's diversity, fish diversity, back like 100 years, 75 years, 100 years. And one of the cool things that he found was that the number of species in Wolf Lake has been relatively stable. It's the same number. However, the character of those species has really changed. So it's an interesting mix of things, and it's an important part for our story. So the Calumet region from 1800 to the present. Everybody knows, I'm assuming that's on this, that's listening to me right now, probably knows what the Calumet region is. Northwest Indiana, from essentially Michigan City, I guess, Grand Beach, all the way over to, is that Palos? Is Palos part of it too, Michael?
No.
No, Palos is outside of the Calumet. So southeast Chicago, essentially. And, that's it's a large swathe of land that is of a really distinct character from the surrounding areas. And one of the things that we'd like to investigate in the documentary is that throughout that, humans have used the resources of the Calumet region in different ways. So Native Americans were using it as a hunting ground and for harvesting, as in this picture, rice, wild rice. And then today, it's a place where we have oil refineries and steel mills and Wolf Lake, which offers a lot of recreational benefits. But what happens to human construct, their mental construct, over time? If you'd ask Potawatomi women gathering rice in that, in the boat there, what's nature? They wouldn't necessarily even understand what the word meant. I mean, they lived nature. It was part of their lives. It was all around them. Whereas today, we ask what's nature. You ask somebody in the Calumet region, could be Wolf Lake. Now, Wolf Lake is surrounded by slag shoreline. It's heavily fragmentized, invasive species, all sorts of things. But when you're out in the woods, most people would agree, hey, this is nature. So we're really interested in how that idea changed and what that change in our mental construct is going to mean for our future. And the ideas of nature never exist outside of a cultural context, which is essentially what I just said. It's like the culture today is one of industry and or a post-industry maybe. That's going to inform us on what our ideas of nature are. Idealizing distant wilderness often means not idealizing the environment we actually live in, the landscape, for better or worse, that we call home. And that's from William Cronin's book, Uncommon Ground. And what he's trying to say is that sometimes when we start thinking about nature and the environment, we we idealize or romanticize the rainforest or the desert, where there's no people and what happened?
They said that they're having a hard time.
Following me?
No, the screen advancing isn't happening, so.
Oh, okay. So the idea is that we have to return to thinking of nature, the nature that's around us, wherever we are. And in the Calumet, those are widely divergent. At one spot you could be at, Eggers Woods, feel like you're out in wilderness. Just go 5 minutes away and then you're at the terminals and you feel like you're in the middle of, a heavily industrial area. But we have to find the beauty in both those places, the idealized one and the one that we live in. Because the ones that we live in are really the critical ones. And we need to foster stewardship in those areas. And by bringing attention to them and starting to think about them in the same ways that we think about the rainforest, we can start to get people to take responsibility for them. The people already are, but even more people, and have it part of our social construct of what nature is. Loving Chicago is like loving a woman with a broken nose. You may well find lovelier lovelies, but never a lovely so real. Nelson Algren, the great Chicago writer, he's writing about Chicago, but he could be writing about the Calumet. It's the same. I mean, people from the Calumet. I grew up in Michigan City.
Yeah, this is the best option we're gonna have. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get the full screen the way that you would kind of prefer it. This is the best I can do. Okay. Best I can.
They're seeing the slides.
Yeah, is that
All right.
okay? Yeah.
Okay.
I'm having a hard time getting just the isolated image to script
Yeah,
share
yeah.
screens, so small technical thing, but
Thanks, Dan. And so, yeah, people that grew up in the Calumet, wherever you find nature, that's you cherish it. I mean, just because it's so rare. And even though it's an industrial landscape.
I think I got it.
Oh, you do?
I think so.
Hey, great.
We'll just keep on.
Yeah.
For those of you at home, just bear with us. We're working through some technical things.
You're gonna get a promotion.
Hey,
Yeah.
work in progress, the iterative model. There we go.
So these two pictures are the two sides of Wolf Lake. One is the channel that leads from the Sportsman Club in Hegwish, and the other one's the terminals in on the other side of Wolf Lake. They're both Wolf Lake. Our minds have to reconcile that this is what we're dealing with. And this is what's important and why we're talking about the Anthropocene, and why the Calumet region is so important for the future globally. We've been through it. We've been through it. Our minds are there. We already understand that reconciliation of heavy industry with nature. The rest of the world is going to catch up with us. And the things that we've done about changing our own mental construct of nature is going to help inform the rest of the world, hopefully through our documentary, about how to approach the Anthropocene, because it is going to be a really rough century. The conditions, the climate change is already manifesting itself in ways that we know that it's going to be tough. And so once you get your mind settled on that this is happening, the panic stops and you begin to start to think about ways to mitigate it. And that mitigation, if you've got your head right, as far as what your construct of nature is, can make a really big difference of 100 years from now. It has to be holistic. It has to be, we can't do it in silos anymore. We have to do it on a holistic basis, and we have to do it with a mind construct of nature that reflects reality. What is nature? There you go, Eggers Woods, man, that's a beautiful shot. I love the slows there. And if you walk back in there, it's just a bird haven. Go through there, nobody would debate its nature. Big Marsh Park, just gorgeous. But it's what they're calling now a hybrid environment. Big Marsh Park, if anybody's been there, no, yeah, it's surrounded by industry. It's surrounded by phragmites and invasive species. It's a battered, beaten up area as far as the environment goes, yet it's home to a really robust biodiversity. And there's a way, all things, living things want to survive, and a lot of them have adaptive resources that once you know what those, how they work, you can begin to work with the environment to make sure that, not to make sure, but to make it easier for those adaptive resources in the biodiversity to have room to function. Yeah, so Calumet, the Calumet region, Wolf Lake, the center, the epicenter, is really a microcosm of what's going to happen globally, what is happening globally. We've been through it. We know that's the shot in the background of Powderhorn Prairie, which is just a gorgeous spot. How it avoided being developed is like a mystery, but it's one of the most diverse prairie populations in the state of Illinois. And it's right there at the corner of Wolf Lake, the southwest corner. Humans and nature in the future. Humans and nature, you know. It's kind of idiosyncratic, but we are part of nature. What we do is natural in a way. You could make the argument that we are nature. Yet, you know, we've stepped away from the natural processes of the earth, which is another way that we think of nature. So it's, we're coming to a spot now where we have an impact on the earth greater than its natural processes, the carbon process and weather. That gives us, that it's incumbent on us to now take ownership of that. It's us. You know, we can't rely on nature fixing itself anymore. We're the drivers of the natural process. And that's why it's important for us to understand what our ideas are about. Those are the ideas that are evolving right now. Early on in the Anthropocene, we can create those mental constructs about what nature is and our role in it that will have an impact hundreds of years from now. If we let it go on its own, on our own erratic and irrational behavior, I mean, we have the technology and science of of gods, yet we have the emotional level of chimpanzees. So it's somehow we've got to reconcile those things. Like I've been talking about, the Anthropocene epoch, human impact overwhelms the natural global ecosystem. The Great Acceleration, that was a book by one of our scholars, J.R. McNeil. That Great Acceleration happens like approximately between 1960 and 1965. Fossil fuel consumption, population, deforestation, all converge in this one moment, geological moment, the blink of an eye, and just skyrocket. Loss of habitat is one of the conditions of the Anthropocene. Loss of biodiversity, climate change. Now, this acceleration is going on. Everybody kind of knows it can't last. It just can't, you know, the earth is finite. It's a finite system. And it turns out in McNeil's book, he points out that it won't continue. And it's actually showing signs of slowing down. Population is, the growth of population is slowing down. Some people think that by mid 21st century, it'll start to stabilize. We are getting a handle on emissions. It's like pulling teeth, you know, but we are addressing it. Maybe not as quickly as we should, but it is being addressed. So the message here is that it won't keep going, because if it's going to stop one way or another. Either it's going to stop like putting the brakes on at 160 miles an hour, or we're actually going to pump the brakes and mitigate this as best we can. But it is going to change, and this is the time right now. This is our time that we start changing the way we think about our relationship with nature and the landscape. What's this got to do with Wolf Lake? Like I said, Wolf Lake is the epicenter of the Calumet, at least it's kind of, maybe not perfectly the epicenter, but it's the biggest landscape form that I think is associated. Maybe some people could argue the dunes, but Wolf Lake is iconic for the Calumet region. And the reason why Wolf Lake is important for the things I've been talking about and for the documentary is that I think that we have something to tell the world. I think that the people of the Calumet, what's been going on here with conservation and trying to create green spatial social justice, these are all things that are started happening here well before it started to manifest itself in the rest of the world. So I think we're in a really good position to lend lessons. The Wolf Lake and Calumet region are leading the way to a greener future. Wolf Lake, Calumet region offer lessons, a little redundant here, but yeah, lessons for the Anthropocene epoch. And this is the Association for Wolf Lake Initiative. That's Michael Bose's organization. They're our fiscal agent for this documentary that we're proposing. A 60-minute documentary is an ambitious project. And we got a grant from the Indiana Humanities for development. We are now working on a Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign. We'll show you a short video that we did in just a moment. That crowdfunding campaign, we hope to have it up by January. And please put your emails on that chat list so I can keep you informed of our progress. And beyond that, we're going to look for foundational support and for corporate support. We're in the development phase right now. we, meaning me and the scholars and others, are coming together to go through the major memes of the documentary to create a narrative arc. We're going to go from Native American settlements, the current, and speculate even about the future. So we have to get a lot of ideas to kind of mesh together, because what we're proposing is nuanced and huge. We're looking for $25,000. That's our goal for the Indiegogo campaign. With that money, we're going to put together a scholar symposium, bring all the scholars together, have them spend a day with one another, talking about the ideas that we have, that we can develop this narrative arc. Begin our interviews with people that are going to end up in the film, and also the research, which is just prodigious. I mean, there's a ton of research to be done still. And crowdsource. So it's Indiegogo. Donations begin like at $10. And the goal is raise $20,000, $5,000 is going to end up going to Indiegogo. So that's the discrepancy between those figures. But what I'd like to do now is to, can we show that? It's a short 3-minute promo that we're going to have on the Indiegogo site that's going to appeal to this hopefully huge global audience to try to help us with by sending donations. There you go. VLC player, yeah.
All right, so back. That's not playing.
Believe me, everyone, we did this like 2 or 3 times before we began, and it worked perfectly each time. So bear with us. Tyler's an ace on this, and he's gonna
We're trying.
get us through
So much for the screenwriter to work well soon.
it. Right.
Oh, I know how to get it in here.
The Anthropocene epoch is upon us, and there's no turning back. It's going to be a bumpy century, but humanity and nature can thrive side by side. I'm David McGowan, an Academy Award-nominated filmmaker. I'm making a documentary, Wolf Lake Divides, about the history of the Calumet region. But more important, I'm providing a forward-looking roadmap for humanity by looking at the Calumet region through the lens of the Anthropocene. The Calumet
Don't have anything?
region is Northwest
Okay, hang tight, folks. We're getting there. Hang tight. Here.
Okay, so
Mhm.
What do we got now? Michael?
okay, what do we have now?
The Anthropocene epoch is upon us, and there's no turning back. It's going to be a
Yeah. Maybe just do this.
The Anthropocene epoch is upon us, and there's no turning back. It's going to be a bumpy century, but
Humanity and nature can thrive side by side. I'm David McGowan, an Academy Award nominated filmmaker. I'm making a documentary, Wolf Lake Abide.
Over here. I'm gonna share my screen. Share that screen. That's. Here. Yep. You look like take class with me. Okay, and I should have a player in view. I am sharing my screen. All right, what you got now?
the Anthropocene epoch is upon us, and there's no turning back. It's going to be a bumpy century, but humanity and nature can thrive side by side. I'm David McGowan, an Academy Award nominated filmmaker. I'm making a documentary, Wolf Lake Abides, about the history of the Calumet region. But more importantly, I'm providing a forward-looking roadmap for humanity by looking at the Calumet region through the lens of the Anthropocene. The Calumet region is northwest Indiana and southeast Chicago. Situated on the state line, Wolf Lake is the vestigial remnant of the local wilderness that was chopped, leveled, and molded over 2 centuries into one of the most renowned and significant industrial powerhouses on Earth. Yet, beautiful natural areas continue to flourish here. From Native American settlements to behemoth mills and refineries, the Calumet narrative arc is a microcosm of the story of humans entering the Anthropocene epoch. Embedded in the history of the Calumet region are lessons for the rest of the world on how to navigate our evolving role in nature. I'm a son of the Calumet. My family's been involved in steel making for over 100 years. I worked at National Steel next to my dad. My family and community relied on the mills to survive, and I have lived the difficult dynamic between job and nature. Because of that, I have committed my filmmaking career to reconciling human behavior with environmental issues. We are in the development stage of production. Our team consists of historians, economists, and restoration biologists.
Wolf Lake Abides is a timely documentary about 2 very important issues: the history of an underserved but vibrant region, the Calumet, and humanity's relationship with the environment. Through the lens of the Anthropocene, the boundaries between natural and human history blur. Understanding the present-day environment requires paying as much attention to human agency over time as it does to the evolutionary trajectory of natural processes. Never have the words of Santayana rung more clearly. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. We have a chance here to break this powerful dictum by understanding our past and using that knowledge to do things better in the future.
Your donation will help us make a documentary about this extraordinary region and provide a map for the rest of the world to navigate the Anthropocene. Please share what you can and spread the word about our campaign. We can't go back, but we can understand how to go forward. Your support will help make it happen.
Hey, as soon as you wrap, I can reshow it after.
We saw it with the greedy, like the greedy.
No, it's a different one.
No?
Yeah, this is only 3 minutes. So can I have my PowerPoint back? So that's the that'll be the video part of the Indiegogo platform where we ask for donations. Like I said, it's not active right now. Our goal is to get it up and running in January. It's got a lot of moving parts to it. People kept telling me, "Oh, do crowdfunding." It's like so, simple. You put something up on the internet, and people send you money. No, it's like way more complex than that. But the Indiegogo people, though, emphasize that it's really critical to build networks, which is why I'm talking to you all. Is that put your emails down in the chat room or here in the room and let me know so that when we do have the Indiegogo platform up and running, that I can let you know and that you can share it with your contacts. And that's how the thing kind of grows, is that it's a network system. Oh, hey, thanks. Yeah, donations will begin at like $10 and go up to whatever. Our goal is to raise 20 grand. I'm pretty confident we can do that. Add your name to the email list. I can't emphasize that enough. We've got a really good chance here to make a really cool documentary about this region and do it in a way that has global significance. And even beyond the Indiegogo campaign platform, if you give me your email contact information, I can keep you up to date on where we're at with the documentary, when we start to shoot, who we're going to be interviewing, what we're doing at any given time, what our plans are, and so forth. Share the crowdsourcing platform with your friends on social media. That's really important, Facebook, LinkedIn, that sort of thing. However, the Indiegogo people say, yeah, that's cool, but really get those emails working. Thanks so much. Thanks for listening, and that's our plans for making this documentary. Wolf Lake Abides. And questions, I'm here for questions. A lot of stuff about not seeing the video, but yeah, right.
I'm just curious.
That's a while back.
Count me in, Joan. Oh, thanks, Joan. 1023.
Here's the question.
I got.
Oh yeah, I'm welcome.
Yeah, Walter again. I know you mentioned your goal is a 60-minute documentary, but would you settle for less if you like 30, 40 minutes if it came down to that? I just wondered.
Right, you asked a really interesting question because we're asking for a lot of money. $300,000, that's a really tough hill to climb. And people will ask me, okay, what's that mean? Like, let's say you get $150,000. We still make the documentary. We make the documentary no matter what. Whether we'll have the content for an hour, that might be one of the decisions that we make. We'll make, hey, no, I'd rather have a great 30-minute documentary that's concise and to the point than an hour long that's stretched out. But probably the big difference is the scope. As the 60-minute, we'll probably have a 60-minute documentary. If we hit $150,000, $175,000, we'll probably still have enough material for a 60-minute film, but it's not going to be nearly as rich. One of the things that I'd like to do is I'd like to go to some of the other places in the world where they're going through a similar thing with their landscape. One is in Korea, the Chechong River. It's a completely made up river. There was a stream there that everybody used for like 1,000 years in Seoul, but it was early 2000s. The government of Korea made a river there and brought it back. The river just flows for like maybe a mile, gets filtered back, and the water comes back again. Nobody washes their clothes in it anymore like they did 100 years ago, but the river's there and it's part of nature. It's a hybrid environment. And I was just interested in how Koreans came to that decision to do that. Well, it turns out that Wolf Lake, when we say Wolf Lake Abides, Wolf Lake was like a marsh that was covered in buttonbush, impenetrable buttonbush with a little bit of open water. And that eventually, probably by now, maybe 100 years from now, it would have turned into a meadow. So in some ways, we we've made this hybrid environment too. You know, like we've taken Wolf Lake, which was like a swamp covered in buttonbush, and we run it with slag. And now we're starting to chip away at the slag, trying to redo shoreline. But the truth is that if that thing was left to its natural processes, it wouldn't be here. It would be gone. So, so to answer your question, if we don't raise that $300,000, that means I may not be able to go to Korea. I may not be able to go to Lagos, Nigeria, or some other places that we think are relevant to what's happening here in the Calumet. Anybody else? Oh, yeah. Tyler.
Well, I was gonna suggest that, from a production standpoint, you are crowdsourcing. Are there alternatives to you actually being able to go? If you come in a little bit under, are you able to leverage filmmakers in other parts of the world to get you content that you could use?
Yeah, there's
I
all
know that
sorts, yeah.
artistically, that sometimes can be a challenge to make everything work seamlessly and
No,
aesthetically.
you're absolutely right. There are options that we could do, that we could maybe make
Right.
a trip to South Korea, option. But I was trying to answer Walter's question in the broad sense of what kind of compromises you have to
Sure.
make if you don't get to your,
300 grand is still an aggressive budget
yeah,
for a film.
Yeah.
To do it the right way. And,
Yeah.
for sure.
it's a tough hill. Yes.
Showed that at Humanities Fest in October, we showed I think a very good documentary called Unbreathable: The Fight for Healthy Air.
Oh,
30 minutes long, but
Yeah.
it says a lot about the Clean Air Act, what forces that led up to it.
there's nothing wrong with a
Yeah.
30-minute movie.
I'm just-
Yeah, yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
especially if it's concise and it's to the
Yeah.
point, it's more memorable. We make movies, or at least I make movies, in the hope that it's going to change behavior. I don't, it's not like I'm making art. I like, I take my profession seriously and I try to do it the best I can, but at the end of the day, the thing that I want from the film is to change trajectory. So if it's a 30-minute movie that does it or an hour-long one, that's okay with me.
But the question for you is, you-
Absolutely not.
or
Absolutely. They
is
were,
anyone or anything gonna be villainized?
no, absolutely not. All those, well, for one, my family, Steel supported my family for 4 generations. So I'm not about to bash the steel industry. And not only that, but all those industries are run by people and other humans, and other humans are working at those situations. Now, are there times when people have done bad stuff? Yeah, of course, but we're looking at this in a broad sense of what humans are doing. And the Standard Oil refinery is a human endeavor. US Steel is a human endeavor. The things that came out of that wasn't from some evil other. No, it was from us. And we're all guilty. I mean, if you want to cast blame, we all drive cars, we all participate in society, we all have, my family, we had a middle-class existence because of the mills, there's not going to be that type of what's the word, demagoguery.
And the
All right,
unions too.
Yeah.
I think you said it too, that this, even big industry could be seen as a natural phenomenon. It's a product of a human experience.
It is.
It's separate from the natural ways of the world, but yet it's a natural outgrowth of human technology and
You can make an argument that, prehistoric people setting fires to prairies to drive bison over the edge of a cliff. That's the same kind of story as, US Steel pumping, burning coke and then putting smoke in the air to make steel, it's like, we're all humans. This is a human story. It's about history. It's not about a drama of who's right and wrong.
Blame Prometheus for the fire.
Right. Well, thanks, everyone. I see people are putting up their emails. Thanks so much for doing that. And we'll keep you posted on our progress. The Calumet region is a cool region. It's kind of underserved media wise, but that this is what we want to do. And I think we've got a really good story to share with the world. I'll take over. All right.
I'll take over. Thank you, David. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just want to bring everybody up to date. Next month's speaker will be photographer Matthew Kaplan, who happens to be a native of Whiting. Center at Big Marsh. So enjoy the holidays. See you in January.
Yay. If you guys want to take a look at the 3-minute video, man, I'd love to show it to you.
Yeah,
It's a cool little piece. I was surprised. I don't want to brag, but I think I pulled it off.
I think you did. I think you did well. And I think I probably can do it now that the pressure's not on me.
Yeah, right. Now you can show it.
Yeah.
You can see it here.
I was getting phone calls from my wife,
I know. I was fielding them too.
and so he was
Do my
talking.
best.
You can see it here too.
Yeah.
And there's no turning back.
Yeah.
It's going to be the Anthropocene epoch is upon us, and there's no turning back. It's going to be a bumpy century, but humanity and nature can.